Well, severe weather has been causing chaos across Kent, Sussex and Surrey for nearly 2 weeks now. The first storms hit the southeast on the night of December the 23rd. It led to flooding on Christmas Eve and left thousands of homes without power over the festive holiday. The situation in Kent was so severe that the Prime Minister visited Yalding last Friday. Today, he agreed the disruption caused by the floods and power cuts has been unacceptable.
The power companies need to work round the clock to get people switched back on. There's very tough regulation here. People are meant to be back on within 48 hours. Now, most people are back on within 48 hours. But, with a young family and having had power cuts myself, I know, just a few hours is a major inconvenience. We're going to go on also investing in these flood defences to try and stop homes being flooded in the first place.
Well, we're joined now from the banks of the River Medway by the Conservative MP for Rochester and Strood, Mark Reckless. Thank you for joining us. Do you understand why people feel so frustrated with the government and abandoned by them at this time?
Yes, particularly in Yalding before Christmas, I think warnings could have been given earlier than they were, and I entirely understand why the Prime Minister seems to have been given a bit of an earful on his visit there, and I think Yalding has suffered. I'm pleased that further down the Medway we haven't had similar problems, and certainly when there was a perceived threat a month or so ago, there was a lot of activity from Medway Council and the Environment Agency with sandbags and floodgates and warning people, and overall I think the authorities do a pretty good job in terms of resilience, but I think there are issues in terms of electricity supply and the regulatory regime for UK power networks.
I was going to ask you about that. I mean, there are a couple of issues there, aren't they? The current rules mean they should restore power within 48 hours. That clearly didn't happen for many households over Christmas. And also the compensation on offer. I know Tim Yeo, the chairman of the Commons Energy Committee, has described it as derisory. What needs to be done then to make sure they up their game?
And I think the compensation levels need to be increased because the requirement is to put power back on in 48 hours. But if UK Power Networks, who are responsible in our region, they're a monopoly. And if they don't do that, the compensation they have to pay is just £27 for each household or, I believe, business affected. And I've had lots of complaints as a constituency MP from businesses on Rochester High Street, on Medway, on Chatham High Street, that power hasn't been put on quickly. And that can be absolutely devastating for a business. So it's good that they're voluntarily paying £75 a day for those who've lost power for more than 48 hours rather than the 27 that they have to. But I think that sum should be larger because there just has to be a much stronger incentive, I think,
if we could just go back to the subject,
to get power back on quickly.
If we could go back to the subject of flooding, a lot of very worried households tonight. People in Yalding have heard promises like the Prime Minister made today before that they'll get defences. Nothing has happened. It should have happened though, surely.
Well, it sounds today that more is being done in Yalding, and there has been a longer warning than it happened just before Christmas. And one thing that the government's doing is working with the insurance industry to help householders who can't or find it very difficult to get insurance to try and help them. And that requires a few pounds extra on the bill of other householders. And I think most people would think that's reasonable and are prepared to give that sort of support. But you have an area where the flooding is absolutely sort of terrible and it would cost billions to do anything about it. Then my constituents probably wouldn't want to see hundreds of extra pounds on their insurance bill or that going on taxes. So we have to work together to strike the appropriate balance and make sure that people get the warning, and then when things do get wrong, as soon as possible afterwards, the authorities work both to get the power back on but also to protect households more generally.
OK, Mark Reckless, thank you very much indeed for joining us.